What made you realize that people can be too trusting? My wife is letting our neighbor openly flirt with me. My wife, Becky, planned on traveling abroad to visit her sister and her family. Over the past year, my wife has become very good friends with our neighbor, Emily, who lives a few houses down. Emily made me feel uncomfortable, and I had the feeling that she was trying to make a move on me. At first, I thought she was joking, and I didn't think much of her behavior, but now it only makes me feel uncomfortable. Becky told me that she chatted with Emily and mentioned how she'd be going overseas for a few weeks. She said that Emily offered to come by and drop off some food for me and our 11-year-old daughter, Alice, from time to time. Becky was reluctant to agree, but after Emily insisted, she finally agreed. I was surprised that she'd agree to this without consulting me first, so I told her that it made me uncomfortable. Becky said Emily means well and it would be rude if we were to refuse now. I said okay, but that she shouldn't be surprised if Alice and I forget to open the door every time Emily comes knocking. Becky said that I was being a jerk to someone offering us kindness. I spoke to Becky about my concerns regarding Emily's behavior. She said that Emily doesn't have any ulterior motives and only means well. She also brought up how Emily has her own husband and always tells Becky how great he is. For some more context, Emily is married, but her husband isn't home too much as he works in the military. When I asked if she could tell Emily that we don't need food deliveries, she said it would be awkward to mention it right before her trip and that it would only be once or twice a week. Another thing Becky mentioned that has only increased my uneasiness is that Emily had given her a spare house key just in case of emergencies or anything like that. Emily makes a lot of unnecessary physical contact, like hugging me whenever she sees me, which didn't bother me the first few times but increasingly makes me feel uneasy. Not only that, but she has made very suggestive comments in the past. I would also add that the way she dresses and her body language when she comes to our house seems to be a bit flirtatious. I installed a doorbell camera the day after my wife had left home. Things had been pretty quiet. I had been enjoying spending quality time with my daughter, Alice. She attends a summer day camp during my working hours, but we spent every evening together watching movies, going on walks, playing video games, etc. My wife, Becky, had planned on teaching Alice how to cook this summer, but since that is yet to occur, I've taken the opportunity. I think Alice is a natural. She picks up instructions quickly, and we've been having a lot of fun. Until Emily came to drop off some food as she had told Becky she would. I did open the door as I decided to just accept once to be polite, but I let her know that she didn't need to worry herself with any other deliveries as my daughter and I would be cooking. She was acting normally, until the very end when she said something along the lines of if there is anything else I can do for you, please let me know. She said it in a very flirtatious tone. I thanked her and told her that I appreciated the gesture but reiterated that we would be able to manage on our own. She then said, well, if you ever crave anything else, just let me know. Just think of it as a substitute for Becky. This made me feel a bit uncomfortable, mainly because of the tone she said it in. The next morning, Alice and I were rushing to get to camp and work. Emily popped out from nowhere and started telling me how her driveway was being resurfaced, and that she needed somewhere to put her car for the next few days. She asked if she could place it on our driveway, and I agreed as Alice and I were in a rush, and because she dropped off food the previous night. As I was driving away, I was mentally kicking myself, as now she'd have a reason to hang around our house. Later that day, I was home doing some chores in our garage when Emily pulled up in her car, mentioning again how her driveway was being resurfaced. I could see that it was indeed the case. We had a bit of small talk, but at some point, she went into a tirade about her husband. She shared how she sometimes felt unappreciated by him and how they didn't get to spend time together. I didn't say too much during this. Only that I felt sorry she felt that way. I glanced at my phone and then pretended that my daughter was texting me to come pick her up. It was close enough to her time anyway. I said goodbye and locked up my house. From speaking with Becky, however, I have learned that her sister does not like Emily at all. Becky told me that she was pretty upset about the arrangement and that she thinks Becky is overly trusting. Since Becky was coming home, Alice and I spent most of the day tidying up. In the late afternoon, I decided to mow our lawn as it was about time to do so. In the past, I have occasionally mowed Emily's lawn, shoveled her driveway, etc. I do this because her husband has done this for us before, so I've always thought that this was just paying them back. Becky has also asked me to do this a few times in the past. However, because of what's been going on, I figured it would not be a good idea and I purposely mowed our lawn when her car was away so that I could return to my house discreetly. After putting away our mower, I saw Emily's car pull into her driveway. Just as I was about to go inside, she called out to me. She asked when Becky would be back. I told her that Becky's flight was scheduled to arrive tonight, and she seemed happy about that. It was a humid day, and I was sweating a bit. She mentioned that I looked hot. May not have meant it that way, but with her, I never know. She suggested that Alice and I should drop by for drinks. I thanked her for the offer but explained that I couldn't, and the conversation mostly ended there. Becky arrived home last night, a few hours after midnight, and was very exhausted from her flight. After I brought her some food, we were only able to talk a bit about her trip before she went to bed. I planned on discussing Emily and showing her the video the next day once she had rested, but she was still asleep in the morning, and I had to run errands. This is where things got complicated. After finishing my errands, I went home to spend time with Becky. When I got home, Alice had already gone out with her friends, so it was just Becky and me. Becky seemed upset, so I asked her what was wrong. She told me that after waking up, she received a text from Emily welcoming her back and inviting her over. Becky agreed and went to Emily's house. She noticed that Emily's living room was messier than usual, but what bothered her more was a pair of men's exercise shorts on the sofa. They looked identical to a pair I had. I say had because those shorts went missing about a month ago. There was also what Becky thought was a condom wrapper on the floor next to it. During their conversation, Emily talked a lot about how kind I've been to her and how much we talked while Becky was away. Emily even suggested that Becky should have extended her stay at her sister's so she could continue looking after Alice and me. At that point, Becky excused herself and went home. She mentioned that she felt overwhelmed and almost sick. She told me that she came home panicking about what Emily might have meant, so she spoke with her sister. Her sister called BS on Emily's claims, as everything seemed too conveniently placed, which calmed Becky down a bit. After sharing all this with me, she asked about my contact with Emily during her absence. I told her about the food, the car, and the conversation from the previous day. Then I showed her the video. Becky was stunned and said that Emily was blatantly trying to flirt with me. After watching it, she said she felt sick about all her interactions with her. The main issue still bothering us is the shorts. I had an identical pair that went missing. We're unsure if the shorts Becky saw are mine or if Emily bought the same pair for her little stunt. As I mentioned before, Emily has been to our house, so it's not impossible for her to have taken them. However, we lack proof of this. Considering how Emily gave my wife her own house key before she left, it all seems very well thought out. Also, we're increasingly starting to suspect that her husband may be okay with what she's been doing.